live.
Boom! Boom! Oh, I did that at the Island Vibe Festival and scared the crap out of someone. I just walked up to the microphone and it was like, you get one chance, one shot, one poem. I walked up to the microphone and facing away, and I've grabbed the microphone off the stand and I've stood there. Boom! Yeah. And then anyway, it got their attention. And then I went into it. The Ujaru Nunakal poem, Municipal Gum. Gum tree in the city street. Hard bitumen around your feet. Rather you should be in the cool world of leafy forest halls and wild bird calls. Here, he seems to me like that poor cart horse, castrated, broken, a thing wronged, strapped and buckled, its health prolonged, whose hung head and listless mien express its hopelessness. Municipal Gum, it is dolorous to see you thus, set in your black grass of bitumen. Oh, fellow citizen, what have they done to us? And that Ujaru Nunakal, aka previously, till she changed her name, Kath Walker, wrote that not long after the referendum vote to bring Aboriginal people into the Constitution, give them the vote, etc., make them citizens of Australia. Yeah. So that last line, so it's a gum tree in the city with a bitumen, and oh fellow citizen, what have they done to us? So on that note, let's acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we broadcast, the Kamilaroi, they're banned by people, and acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders past, present and emerging. I also acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. I would like to give a big shout out to Pauline and all the crew next door in the Guyra Land Council, and a big thank you for their late NAIDOC Family Day last Friday here. It was a fantastic afternoon down there in the community hall. And also we had the free haircut bus in town yesterday, so great to see stuff happening around the place. And yeah, the Pauline's had to cancel that NAIDOC Family Day about 3 times this year, so it's been tough going, but she got it off and pulled off a good one. So yeah, let's move on. I've been revisiting some of A.D. Hope's work. Alec Derwent Hope was born in Cooma in New South Wales in 2007. He passed on in 2000 at the age of 93, or just short of his 93rd birthday. He was educated in Sydney, Oxford, lived in Tasmania as well. He was a scholar, but he was considered one of the the 20th century's greatest 18th century poet, which has been written about him. That's one of the things. This one that I'm going to do, Tiger, yeah, it's interesting. It starts with like the paper tigers, and it then goes into the real tigers. Now, paper tigers, what are they? They're pen pushers, bureaucrats, etc. People, whatever a paper tiger is. And then the authentic ones follow their true selves. This is what I get out of this poem, having read it a number of times. Tiger by A.D. Hope. The paper tigers roar at noon, the sun is hot, the sun is high, they roar in chorus, not in tune, their plaintive savage hunting cry. Oh, when you hear them, stop your ears and clench your lids, bite your tongue. The harmless paper tiger bears strong fascination for the young. His forest is the busy street, his den's the forum and the mart. He drinks no blood, tastes no meat, he riddles and corrupts the heart. But when the dust begins to creep from tree to tree, from door to door, the jungle tiger wakes from sleep and utters his authentic roar. It bursts the night and shakes the stars till one breaks blazing from the sky. Then listen, if to meet it soars your heart's reverberating cry. My child, then put aside your fear, unbar the door and walk outside. The real tiger awaits you there. His golden eyes shall be your guide. And should he spare you in his wrath, the world and all the worlds are yours, and should he leap the jungle path and clasp you with his bloody jaws, then say, as his divine embrace destroys the mortal parts of you, I too am of that royal race who do what we are born to do.
Okay.
Yeah, first time I read that, I didn't get it, but now I've read it enough. I know the sort of the power that's in it. That and following my true passion and heart here, creating this Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I really feel the authenticity in that last part, and we do what we're born to do. Now another really fantastic poem of A.D. Hope is this one called The Death of the Bird. In fact, to give this context, what I might do, I might move in front of the cockatoo. Move the camera around. There you go. Come here. The death of the bird. For every bird, there is this last migration. Once more the cooling year kindles her heart. With a warm passage to the summer station, love pricks the courage and lights across the chart. Year after year, a speck on the map divided by a whole hemisphere summons her to come, season after season, sure and safely guided. Going away, she's also coming home. And being home, memory becomes a passion with which she feeds her brood and straws her nest, aware of ghosts that haunt the heart's possession and exiled love mourning within the breast. The sands are green with a mirage of valleys. The palm tree casts a shadow not its own. Down the long architrave of temple or palace blows a cool air from moorland scraps of stone. And day by day, the whisper of love grows stronger, that delicate voice more urgent with despair. Custom and fear, constraining her no longer, drives her at last on the waste leagues of air. A vanishing speck in those inane dominions, single and frail, uncertain of her place, alone in the bright host of her companions, lost in the blue unfriendliness of space. She feels it close now, the appointed season. The invisible thread is broken as she flies. Suddenly, without warning, without reason, the guiding spark of instinct winks and dies. Try as she will, The trackless world delivers no way, the wilderness of light no sign. The immense and complex map of hills and rivers mocks her small wisdom with its vast design. And darkness rises from the eastern valleys, and the winds buffet her with their hungry breath, and the great earth with neither grief nor malice receives the tiny burden of her death. So yeah, that's A.D. Hope's The Death of the Bird. So I was just wondering if Ashley would like to come on up now. Ashley Albanese. And yeah, while we're getting on up, hello out there in YouTube and Facebook. Give it a thumbs up or a comment please, and share it and like it and subscribe and click on the bell as well for notifications if you're on YouTube. Wow.
He had a strange quality, Mr. Hope. As I've said a couple of times here, I only met him once, but he had an unforgettable spectral quality about him. And when he talked about being the child of the manse, or a Presbyterian minister's world, and amongst those responsibilities as a boy up at Cooma, to the east of where he was speaking to us that day, one felt that the cool, dispassionate passion that a Calvinist can have was with him. And I find that always with his poetry. It's a voice that's somewhat different to other Australian poets. Muse today, gone away, what to say? Amuse it, hey? Say to please, and please to say. Ahoy, I'm the joy, the toy of ego, long found, long lost dictionaries. Come on, pow, wow, me up and sidling sideways, I want a self, created from your dear response, or drear response, to these idling idle words, surrealing words of wandering, wheeling, muse today gone away, what to say? Here are our friends' hypothesis. The hypothesis of all things that can become a thing is that they're open to thinginess, which is investigation. The implications of that are tried but never true. Try and try again, and keep calibrating your response. How my Aboriginal students used to love the word calibrate. And do we have P for parameter or T for try and trial? So hypothesis, implication and parameters. My trusty triadic. Well, we are in a time of travail. We have to play to please and please to play. I have been reading, this time I always say what I've been reading and contemplating, for about the fifth time over about 35 years. I read David Malouf's truly extraordinary story, Southern Skies, I should say. It's very important whether it's a sky or skies. It's certainly one of the most interesting things written in the English language in the last half century, Southern Skies, and it has a relationship to me and to James here with some of the connections we have to those hot Frangipani nights, going in thongs or bare feet over the splatters of Jacaranda, with or without push bikes, through northern rivers or southern Queensland towns. Mr. Malouf, of course, is, or the character in Southern Skies, is going through Brisbane on a tropical night, early evening, to his psychosexual awakening. I really think in some ways Southern Skies is, yes, well, enough said. There are many great, I think quite great Australian writers. Australian literature is underappreciated in the world, but people outside our culture bubble find it interesting to look into the mirror of it because they're intrigued by a small tribe, 25 million of us, black, white and yellow and brindle, scattered across 3 or 4 time zones at the bottom of the world.
Including a few aliens.
So, including a few aliens.
Thank you.
Although I haven't been taken aloft, I am waiting with the
Be patient.
with the Homeric sound of aloft. Today, I thought I would read a couple of pieces by Francis Webb, because the intellectuals beyond our austral frame have often thought that he's the greatest of all our 20th century poets. My mother used to like Francis Webb, and he used to go to the bin. He'd crack up, and in his world of the 30s and 40s and 50s, you could go to an asylum and get some food and a roof that wouldn't leak over your head. And some artists who were understood and respected really were allowed to just put themselves in for a longer or shorter time. And as somebody who's taught lots of Aboriginal students, I confronted this in the 2000s with kids who were getting ready to become adult or semi-adult, and they were getting ready to go into prison care, or the ritual of prison situation and development, because some of them would get at least a frame to live in. Even if they couldn't go beyond the frame, they'd still be living in it. So these themes are strong to me. Now to the poetry, as James would say. Francis Webb, a tip for Saturday. I met Jack on a Friday night. Headway was medium, in spite of lurching walls in the spinning town. Taxis that sought to mow him down. Strange girls that dashed into his arms, then cursed him in no uncertain terms. The air was still, the sky was grey. I thought of tips for Saturday. The navigator's task affords small safety from a spate of words. He pointed me to starry skies on stilts of queer philosophies, while oaths made rapid cubic gain like roly-poly on the plain. I quote one mighty thought on wars. There'd be some friction if the stars were like us, macrocosms jammed edgeways like sardines on this damned insignificant little planet. Figuratively, literally, he spat on it, meekly surrendering to the shocks of war, religion, politics. My voice could not attempt a breach. Jack filled the road with noisy speech, with gusto, verb and animation, from Windsor Hall to Town Hall Station. The air was still, the sky was grey. Reluctantly I turned away without a tip for Saturday. My grandfather used to go down at 4 every morning to spruik up the horses to go out on Saturday to bring somebody the pleasure of pain, or the pleasure of winning, or the pleasure of loss. If I remember correctly, Mr. Webb was in the Air Force during the war, and you get a shadow of that as he confronts Jack on a Friday night. Port Phillip Night is speaks for itself. Lights. Not the histrionic reds and golds of the manufacturer's name upon 6 o'clock air, nor the shine where stagey public safety unfolds his hall of tinsel headlights with every care. Lights. Not the street lamps along the waterfront road, nor neon tapping his fork while the passions bow down to the jazz from the jetty. Dits and dahs of a code, lights are abroad in our sealed and delivered town. White liner from Bergen, is it a style of grief? Your hull bound to the dock at an easy slope? You are only disciplined voltage and stilled thunder, laid up peaceful, if it is peace, to be under the freezing old deposition of the rope, while all the beacons are hollering, here's our reef, a reef, a reef, lights, lights, lights. Because there are two, this man and this woman, hackneyed and fearless, spying wharfward in a lucky shadow. Over to you they set the clock running and the Eneroi dying, the cool change, they cussed the dismantled wave. And for you, Bergenger, their hands on the wheel are steady. Freedom, the pilot comes to the mesmerized slave. Arterial flag dip, crouch of motors at the ready. Lights, not of the bullock-fed infantry, howling in their sleep of arrows among the tents. These are the spying lights, the undertone and the more deeply and the more finely known, the more deeply, finely foreign these elements of the Fingal's cave revelation of moon on sea. And I'll finish with one more. I think in this collection, that curious piece he wrote lying in bed with the suffering around him, one of the strange and famous things of writing in the 20th century. Hospital Night, the second version by Francis Webb. This is fairly clear travel and travail. He loved opera, Francis Webb, and he loved to listen to UC Violi, but that's another poem, another time. I like to listen to UC Violi. Hospital Night, second version. The side room has sweated years and patience, rolls its one eye skyward, nightward, hours beyond sleep I lie, and the fists of some ardent plimsoll have laboured this wall, clear of its plaster beside my chosen head. Someone murmurs a little, dithers in bed against that frail call. Are imminent the siege works of a huge nightfall. Trees drawn up, rustle forward in the steep time of gloaming. Crude green labours gathers itself to a darkness, dreaming of perished ice-world summers. Birds few, unwieldy, tame darknesses astir, pondering, touching. Kinship with the first dark in a trunk's crouching. Darkness lays claim to that vague breath labour of a century. My name. Someone calls, again in his sleep, and my thought is pain, pain, till Chanticleer will carol truce again to the faceless joustings of green and green by an old cell, with time round about and labouring shapes of sin to the knotted fist of lightning, or tilting rain to the wind's lapse and swell, old diehards of whom the birds shiver to tell. Sleep is a labour amid the dilatory elder light. Now a star is uttered in the long night, pitched beyond altercations of tree and storm. For these, isled upon time, are murmuring ever of good or evil, becoming a darkness, but never darkens that star housed in a glory, yet always a wanderer. It is pain, truth. It is you, my father, beloved friend, come to me in the guile and darkness of a day's end. As a frail, intense blue burning, near, not far, old hands were stripped from the keyboard of time. They favour white notes, nor black, but they glitter, and glitter of a lover as out of war I labour breathing deeply and tremble towards your star. Nice to give Mr. Webber a swim around in the Gyra swimming pool. under the starlight, of course. I will finish with serendipitousness.
I had a swim today.
I know. My dad used to love all that. He'd say, "Oh, I've beaten NASA," and I'd say, "What do you mean, Dad, you've beaten NASA?" He said, "Well, I've taken gravity from my body and I didn't spend 8 billion to do it." He had a good sense of humour. He needed it. I've loved this little book, this anthology of Chinese literature, but not as much as the very famous one from the same era and stable of Japanese literature, which was my Bible as a boy. But I never put it under my pillow, but it was my Bible. But I loved this book too in my early 20s. And serendipitously, I'll just open it and read thus.
Good.
No, I won't. It was a prose piece. I will open it once again and read a little of this. King Shang of Chu was taking his ease in the palace of the Orchid Terrace, with his courtiers Sung Yu and Chang Che attending him when a sudden gust of wind came sweeping in. The king, opening wide the collar of his robe and facing into the wind, said, "Ah, what a delightful breeze, and I and the common people may share it together." May we not? But Sung Yu replied, "The wind is for your majesty alone. How could the common people have a share in it?" "The wind," said the king, "is the breath of heaven and earth. Into every corner it unfolds and reaches without choosing between high or low, exalted or humble. It touches everywhere. What do you mean when you say that this wind is for me alone?" Sung Yu replied, "Well, I have heard my teacher say that the twisted branches of the lemon tree invite the birds to nest, and hollows and cracks summon the wind. But the breath of the wind differs with the place which it seeks out." "Tell me," said the king, "where does the wind come from?" Sung Yu answered, "The wind is born from the land and springs up in the tips of the green duckweed. It insinuates itself into the valleys and rages in the canyon mouth, skirts the corners of Mount Tai, dances beneath the pines and cedars. Swiftly it flies, whistling, wailing, fiercely it splutters its anger. It crashes with a voice like thunder, whirls and tumbles in confusion, shaking rocks, striking trees, blasting tangled forests. Then, when its force is almost spent, it wavers and disperses." There you see the voice of the wind moving through James Warren's body as he... Then, when its force is almost spent, wavers and disperses, thrusting into crevices and rattling door latches. Reminds me a little bit of the Book of Job. Oh, the wonders of Chinese... the thing about Australia that's of interest to people now, I think, culturally, is that we are of the English mould, not quite Americans, but besotted with America, but we're having to very painfully grapple with being in China's time zone and ultimately and inevitably in the physical and mental current of 1.5 billion people. And it'll be an interesting cultural digestion, Mr.
Well, I reckon in 50 years there'll be only 0.7 of a billion, so I don't know where they're going to find all the young people to look after all the old people.
Can't get old, that's the bloody issue.
Well, they've got like a 1.15 birth rate at the moment. The situation's dire. They're about to fall off the population precipice.
Well, they've always had trouble.
Anyway, this was something I actually inspired by Chinese poets, to believe it or not. I was reading, I don't know, something about poetry, and it was different forms, and one of them was of Chinese poets, and it was mentioned there was one about war and stuff, and it was how at that time that particular poet's focus was because there was a lot of war when this poet was writing. I don't even know his name. But what I did like about some of the Chinese poetry is they're just sort of these like really simple words. So here we go. Bones of men shattered, public housing, rubble, caterpillar of humanity, snakes in power, shock, awe, bones of men.
Birds crying out over the
Actually, I miss that. The last word's supposed to be bombs of men, actually. But, bombs of men. Oh well, it still has the same effect. Yeah.
I wonder in the Chinese if that cry you did also was to echo crack vultures.
No, that was just I don't know,
serendipitous.
One of those feelings. And then
more of that?
Not like that, no. But then I was inspired. I don't have it. There was I got a few short ones and I got a couple of long ones. I got quite a lot that I didn't think I'd written that much, but I have. Short one, another short one. An in-depth analysis of the emoji you choose reveals your penis looks like an eggplant. You are smiling but in a sarcastic way, bantering with that cutie, screaming in fear. And I just don't get it. Like, why? How did the eggplant get chosen as the emoji?
What is an emoji?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know the little like the smiley faces and the hearts that they send.
People send those to me.
Oh yeah.
Well, I haven't really sent one, so I don't know.
No, okay.
It's an emoji.
Emoticons.
Okay.
Well, we've educated Vince and I.
Thank you.
Well,
we'll bring them in our pocket.
Okay, so we're going to give you a long one now.
Don't explain the eggplant. You'll ruin it.
I know.
That's the mystery of it. Thank you.
6. What did I entitle this one? 1 degree of separation. 6 degrees of separation, more like only one in these days of connection. Swim, breathe deep, and run. 2 friends of mine have met Wim Hof. I'm not telling you this to get off, but it's true. 1 degree and maybe 2. Around the world in another room, it's Zoom. Now, we can all collaborate. The internet makes life great. Information democratised, smartphone calls and Wi-Fi's, and the darkness cannot hide from the world with open eyes. Beware of hackers, fishers, spies. They'll have 1,000 tries. Are you hackable, trackable, locateable, searchable, watchable, discernible, securable, emailable, loginable? Log in or create new account. Forgotten password. Dexterous thumbs, blue teeth, hands free. Surely artificial intelligence is an oxymoron. Our best friend is now a device, and our friends and followers, most of them we really don't know. They exist, they're in time and space. Only 1 degree of separation from anyone on the planet.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it is. I sent a book to Africa once. Sent some books to Africa and some to England, and yeah, so you just never know where people are in the world watching you. Hello out there in the whole wide world. So yeah, that was my that's my long one. I'll give you one more little short one, and then I'll invite Steve on up. Traumaflation. I'll repeat that. Traumaflation.
Traumaflation.
Yeah. Okay. So we got these things, and there's been a bit of explosion in narcissism because you can take photos of yourself. Apparently, I believe so, in like psychological terms. But anyway, traumaflation. In a world of narcissism and empaths, the easiest way to get attention is to claim that you've been through a trauma. That's the poem. But I'm not denying that some people do go through legitimate traumas.
Thank you. I like that. Traumaflation.
I'll repeat that. In a world of narcissism and empaths, the easiest way to get attention is to claim that you've been through a trauma. That's what often what narcissists actually motivate.
They got it, my car coming in, trauma, I got a trauma.
Good. My poem is called Pragmatism, Notes from an Investigation into the Society of Psychical Research. I'm going to have to explain it a bit. The Society for Psychical Research was an organisation set up in the early 20th century which was designed to investigate claims about the supernatural. So they investigated psychics, they investigated tabletopping and whatnot. One of the most prominent members of it was a philosopher and a psychologist called William James, who wrote The Varieties of Religious Experience. And he was also known for the philosophy of pragmatism, and which basically, well, I mean, it's a bit complex, but basically it means that religion, instead of measuring religious experience, I should say, instead of measuring religious experience by whether it's metaphysically true, you should measure it by whether it has psychological usefulness. So anyway, this is called usefulness. Usefulness, psychological meaning for you that bringing forth a transformative experience. Okay, so I'll read it. It's a bit long, I'm afraid. It's called Pragmatism, Notes from an Investigation into the Society of Psychical Research. I align deep thought with dreamy analogy, like the development of a pure malt or the joy of never having to end a toxic habit. I'm a bored servant with enough gravitas to joke about modern absurdity and the time I spent with Professor Cobb. Like every philosopher, he had an itchy brain. Interesting? Maybe, if we accept his confusion as meaningfully distinct from the thinking of every other mammal. I remember he was sweet, distant, aristocratic, intellectual, theologically obsessed, gloomy, ineffectual, but mostly scrupulous. He had a degree from Oxford and wanted to measure the possibility of afterliving by interrogating the supernatural through a scientific ethos, as did all members of the Society for Psychical Research. Table tapping had a history, but the touch of the ghost was perfected when the utterances of charming psychotics were interpreted by spiritual entrepreneurs. Most enjoyed the entertainment. Others found it had to be theologically crucial. Cobb was of the latter. The professor was a believer in proving or disproving the meaning of existence could be waged upon the testimony of clairvoyance. It made him think harder. Why is it the insane seem closer to divinity than the functional? Why is it only the damaged see? What cruel being feeds off the crucified? But at the end of every tortured thought, hope imposed itself. Enigmatic Mrs. Piper. Mrs. Piper was the clairvoyant, which was famously investigated. An enigmatic Mrs. Piper spluttered because existing is insane and spiritual growth is hard to realise. Professor Cobb remained publicly sceptical, but privately became spiritual and worried. There are patterns, and if there is divinity driving the archetypes, is the cosmos immoral? Sometimes the professor called his wife Leonora and interpreted her rage in mystical notes. The Medusa and the Medea, feminine power, the anima dangerously erotic, unhinging the mind even under the conditions of a controlled experiment. He couldn't sleep. Everything depended upon the testimony of Mrs. Piper, or rather, brains interpreting the holy ravings Leonora herself confessed she knew nothing of. Have you ever seen a gentleman brutalise his wife while renouncing his estate and education for a spiritual passion? This is a theatre, servants drink 4 and 2, the wacky gentry. Necessity demanded eventually the professor be ordered into an insane ward. Fate would arrange him to badly die in. I want to believe that even when that ordained fire burned through every cell of the mad, Cobb still coherently railed against the absurdity of pragmatism and insisted Mrs. Piper proved if the dead are alive, they must care for us like the protectors do for the ruling class.
Woo! Thank you.
Yes.
That wasn't particularly long.
Oh,
Very interesting, huh?
yeah.
Give us a second part. Do another part of the
Wow.
people.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that one again for sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a short one here. Silence is appreciated.
That's the what?
I'll start again.
Appreciate it.
I'll be brief.
Silence is appreciated.
Nice.
Space for contemplation.
Wow.
That's it. So yeah, that was inspired by a visitor I had last week, young Monique, who drew a picture of me and left that here, and then next day she came in and left me a poem too. So
Show
thanks.
the picture.
Oh yeah, it's in the other room.
Ah.
I might run and get it later, but yeah, the poem and the picture I got from Monique. So yeah, that was thanks to her actually. That one, where I got that one. Silence is appreciated. Space for contemplation. And I also got this one inspired from her bit of poetry too. Mr. Salt and Pepper makes life nice with a little bit of extra tasty spice. Just a little shake of Mr. Salt and Pepper makes life interesting and tastes better. There is a monster yelling ooga booga. She's a honey trap named Mrs. Sugar. Mrs. Sugar tempts you with dopamine, makes you sick and fat, she's quite mean. You can't have too much Mr. Salt and Pepper, adding more tastes worse, not better. But Mrs. Sugar tempts you to eat more so you won't be able to get out the door. Yeah, I don't know, look, and you could probably call me misogynist because I attach gender to the salt and pepper and the sugar too, but anyway, stuff it, I'm not.
Do the one-legged...
I don't have the one-legged stockman on me, but at the moment, yeah. And the...
how I love the one.
Oh, look, I would just like to invite Doug up if that's all right. Yeah.
A man who has been aloft. Up to the loft.
Okay. But don't make me special. Okay. I got all this stuff, but don't mean I got a long talk. I'm terrified of talking anything too long because I'll be frightened I'm going to bore you.
No.
I'm just saying how I am. I don't want to bore you. Boredom frightened shit out of me. Excuse me. I've got a couple of little things, and then main. What's providence has been mentioned. I had an Aboriginal friend, and he said there were no accidents. There's a reason for everything. I love that. If that's Providence or the universe, I don't care. But in some ways I could do with philosophy. I don't like philosophy talk because I'm not very good, but I could say everything's providential if you want to go to certain lengths. Okay, here we go. Thanks for having me. I don't know who's out there, but we're across the world, is it?
Yep.
I just want to be a Hall of Fame guy. I don't want to be bloody that famous. Okay. Circumstantial providence through the week. I was having a coffee with a couple of misfits through the week, and we all agreed how crazy we each are. It was very bonding. Anyway, this woman came up with a couple of poems for me, and I just want to read them because I believe they were just given to me, and I said, wow. I asked the young man if I could read his poem. He's 10 years old. She was going to make sure that was okay. Now this is an amazing thing for me because this kid's 10 years old and he's got a little bit of a disability, if you don't mind me talking about him that way, but he's written a poem. His name's Jack. There's one mention of a divine word. I'm not going to punish a kid for that. Here we go. I'm strong and do I get put a bit of punch into this?
Yeah.
That's it, you do.
Yeah.
You do too. I'm strong. This is a 10-year-old kid. His name's Jack. I'm strong and super. I wonder if I can run my farm one day. I hear the sheep in the morning. This is a magic bit. He says, I see me going to Uluru. Well, I want to own a wool company. I'm strong and super. I pretend to run 60,000 farms. I feel very safe. I touch the soft wool of the sheep. I worry that I won't grow. I cry when my dog died by a snake bite. I'm strong and super. I understand that Jesus is real. I say that my grandfather was in World War II. I dream to grow, I try to be happy. I hope my friends will stay with me forever. I'm strong and super.
Good.
Hey, Jack.
Not bad for a 10-year-old.
Oh, I like it. Yay.
It's going to Uluru too, that's amazing. Right. Now, this is another gift from the same woman. This was from her husband, who died a few years back. And he's a poet, and he's on a farm. And she's putting together a book of his poetry, and she's going to give it to me when it's put together. This is a sample. The interesting thing about some of this is she was a nurse, lived down there. He's died and she's retired and all that. But they lived, would you believe, at Hanging Rock on the highest possible property. So when you go as high as you can in a Hanging Rock up into the clouds, you can't go any further, that's where their farm is. And that's what entranced her when they got married, and he took her up into above the bloody clouds.
Where is that?
Hanging Rock? Yeah. I'll have to ask her, mate. But
It's in Victoria, isn't it?
where's what?
Hanging Rocks in
Where is
Victoria.
it? Up in Tamworth?
I thought it was up above Tamworth, yeah.
It's not up in the hill.
Between
Must be a
And
Walker
it's 1,300 metres. So that's high enough for us, isn't it?
Is that picnic at Hanging Rock?
Pardon?
It's not that picnic at Hanging Rock.
No, she said that's a different Hanging Rock,
that's in
but the
Victoria.
geology of the geographics wouldn't be that different. Now the Tamworth's up in the hills.
Okay, good.
And they get snow, mate.
Rightio.
All right.
Every year they get it there.
Because of the elevation, I would say. But when you want to get to the farm, you just keep going up and up and up till you can't go any further. And she got in the above the clouds and she was wrapped. She had a wonderful time there and the husband passed. All right, let me read.
Does she still live there?
No, but the people who bought the property allow her to visit.
Yeah.
But because she misses her husband a lot, it's difficult for her to go. Okay, here we go. His name was Bill Dennison. I'll endeavour to read this with some decorum, if that's a word I can find somewhere in me. I don't think I want two pairs of glasses. The title of this poem is Winter. It's cold on my mountain above hanging rock. There's a blanket of snow on the ground. The gum trees are bowed with the weight of their load. It is hushed. There is hardly a sound. The road down to Bowery, it's a station, the road down to Bowery is totally blocked. There is no way of getting through. And some say the track to the cliffs out the back will be closed for a good week or two. The drifts are as high as the fences in parts, and the cattle are battling for feed. It's all we can do just to get farther through and pray God that they find what they need. Now even the wombats are staying at home, and the roos camping deep in the trees. The rabbits are whole, keeping out of the cold, and the birds all fluffed up against the breeze. The freeze, I'm sorry. Not all the wild creatures will see a new day. There are some will succumb to the cold. The weak will not last until winter is past. The new world's for the strong and the bold. But we must all wait for the sun to return and the green to recover the land, for the new life to grow from the warm earth below, nature's beauty revealed as God planned. Amen.
Bravo!
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Legend.
Doug, do you have to drive straight from Nundle, virtually straight up?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Nundle is a connection.
Must be a bugger of a drive. You must go straight up. You must go straight up for 1,000 metres.
Whatever.
We must go out there, James, and do some
It's a
poetry.
beautiful, interesting country, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got more?
Oh, well, yeah, mate.
Good.
We must go out
I'm
there.
not boring you.
No.
Yeah,
No.
get all your fun.
No, great.
I got two more.
Excellent.
One's
Go for
short
it.
and one's
I thought you
very
were no, I
short.
thought you were walking away. That's all good.
We'll have to go to Nundle, up the mountains in a snowstorm and perform, James.
Okay. Yeah.
1,300 metres. Point Lookout at Eagle is 1,400, and I think that's about the same Ben Lomond, ain't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, I got a little ditty here, but I was going to call it a haiku, but I'm not clever enough, so I'll read this and I'll read the last act. This one. This is just short. I can't call the name really. It's not really a proper long leap, I know. It's a poem of sorts. But it grabbed me today while I was mulling on something. Okay, I don't know what. Oh, I know what it's. No, I don't. I know what the next one's called. Here we go. Drinking and driving will kill you quick. Thinking and driving will be killing you quicker. I've got a little bit of fucking experience with this stuff. How can you tell if you're losing your plot? Your focus is floating. Your thinking says no. Can head miles keep me straight on the road that I drive? The heart filled with humble that keeps me alive is squashed and much lost by the stinking of thinking. Woo! Yeah. I can write several more verses. Anyway, I was thinking about my mother-in-law one day. Fucking hell, it nearly killed me. Now, Bless her. Now this is very interesting, and I don't know if you're going to say I'm plagiarising, but I think it's okay. I'm going to rename this poem by, to me, a powerful poet, whether you like it or not. His name's Lunick. You all know him, don't you? He writes for the Melbourne or Sydney paper, doesn't he?
Yeah.
His cartoons. Anyway, over the years, then when my dad died, I read one of his poems about something about when the ship's sinking, how everything comes real. I remember reading. Anyway, he spoke to me over many years, but I don't want to make him into God or anything. All right. So the title of this is from next year's calendar. Someone said, you can't read the calendar till next year. I said, I might be here next year, so I'll use a bad word. So I'm going to read it. Apologies if I'm jumping the queue, Mr. Lunick. This is from October next year. It's about spring. It's titled SAD, Seasonal Affective Disorder. It's a disease. I'm going to rename it in my way. The last line of this poem talks about the leap of bold cross-pollination. I think of trees, I think of plants, I think of things I've probably had experience with, but I think of humanity. I love that expression. The wayward leap of bold cross-pollination. Pollination, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Spring, you great big wild erotic thing. You activist, you revolution. Nothing new, but always new and sweet and shocking. Insurgencies of bees and snakes and flowers, of singing birds and ants and raging grass, the crazy winds, the happy sun, the mighty clouds of black in heaven. I love this chapter. Politicians and celebrities, big mouth, big money, you have no place in spring, except upon your knees. Thank you, Lenny. Have respect. Behold, as life is born in freedom, in truth, in thunder, in warmth, in danger, in beauty and in joy. And there's the last line. In the wayward leap of cross-pollination. I'm sorry, I read it. I'm sorry, I mistook it. In the wayward leap of bold cross-pollination. There's a picture there.
Yeah.
She's holding a duck, I think. I just want to say real quick. I sent a copy of this photo to a lady in the States who thinks I'm a bit of a poet. Yeah, she thought I wrote this.
I think you're a
I
bit
said,
of a one.
wow, you're a bloody poet. I said, no. But you know what I said? I said I could have written something like that.
Oh, yes.
You know, I don't want to be smart,
No.
but I think we all have the potential to do stuff like that. Anyway, thanks very much.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey,
I think
You may be aware, but over the last few weeks or so, I've been on a journey of belly button fluff, and I had up until now 7, 8 poems about belly button fluff, and I went for a swim this afternoon. I did a kilometre and had a shower afterwards, and then I come across my poems belly button fluff here, and I thought, oh well, there's a belly button fluff number 9 and belly button fluff number 10. But when I look down, now take this. I've been for a swim, okay, and I've had a shower after the swim, and I look. And sure enough, there's a little bit of belly button fluff. So just make sure that you're all checking your belly buttons and getting the fluff out. Because even if you had a swim or a shower, you could have belly button fluff. And if it gets impacted, it becomes belly button fluff crystals.
Wow.
Yeah,
True.
true. You have to dig them out
Wow.
with tweezers.
Okay.
All right, belly button fluff number 9.
Number 9.
Belly button fluff is small, unimportant. End of rant.
Wow.
That's it.
Belly button fluff number 10. Feeling blue? Belly button fluff.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah, they're getting shorter. They are, you know. But you know, it still all comes back to that line. Most stuff's as unimportant as belly button fluff.
Exactly.
You know.
Wow.
Then there's a few more I've done. I'll only read a couple out. Look, I've just got to get a box of That's the one. Oh, yeah, hang on. Yeah, it's in there. I'm selling a box of flying reindeer poo.
Huh?
Doesn't smell at all, and it's light too. It's invisible and totally see-through.
What?
And if you send me the money, I'll mail shit to you.
Hey,
Wow. That's all
you probably
good.
did. You could get over it.
Yeah, flying reindeer poo. How many flying reindeers have you ever seen?
Wow.
Well, their shit's invisible too.
That's right.
Yeah. Like the unicorns.
Wow.
Oh, assumption free. This one was based on, I can't remember the 4 agreements of Don Miguel Ruiz. And the one, don't make assumptions. Assumption free. Assume nothing about you, please. Assume nothing about me. Because your judgment's incorrect, your assumptions disrespect. Assumption without all the facts and information that you lack results in people take offence from judgmental assumptive comments. Made up stories you believe about reality make you grieve. Some assumption ontological about what is known, epistemological. Axiological assumptions of research, methodological, my brain hurts. Procedures in the paradigm. I assume this line needs to rhyme.
Come here.
There's a little bit of irony at the end there.
Yeah.
And, oh yes, okay. Some of you have heard my legend of the bomber gun set in future Earth where there's no war and no weapons and no everything.
Yeah.
This was along the same lines. It's called Stopped Wars. I travelled through the universe to a future space and time that I want to tell you about, because everything's fine. There's no weapons, no wars, no borders anymore. There's no government or money, and there's no rich or poor. There's no fear, just acceptance, peace, joy and bliss. When people meet each other, they all hug and kiss. They tell stories of the past when they outlawed all the guns and the rivers of blood would no longer run. It was then that global consciousness raised to compassion, making profits from killing went way out of fashion. I came back to the present and awoke from my dreams. Our future isn't bleak. It's not all it seems. So, yeah, I was reading this really, it was this interesting article about, like, sort of predictive dreaming the future. So you've probably seen the thing about how a lot of Simpsons episodes are sort of predictive programming, and that whatever happens in Simpsons happens in real life like so many years later. So using collective consciousness in the fact that we're all mind and all connected through quantum field, and that there is really no boundary to our reality, and we're just different vibrations of the oneness or the God, or the source, experiencing life from different perspectives of humans, as of butterflies, perspectives of dogs, and whatever God wants to be. If he wants to be a tree, or it wants to be a tree, or the earth, or the universe, it is. So here we are. And so in this article it said, collective imagination of the future can manifest the future. So by putting out poems about this idealistic future time, you put those ideas into the world, they spread, and then create that way with our words. In the beginning was the word. Slapped myself across the face. Our planet's an amazing place. Also slapped at my birth. Welcome to life here on earth. With trees, bees, puppies cute with gratitude, I transmute fear to love, joy and bliss, a 5D life I don't want to miss. The grass is green from the rain, positive change comes from pain. We each decide our attitude, resentment or choose gratitude. Let go of unimportant stuff like cleaning belly button fluff. Take a hike, a swim or run, walk in the rain, sit in the sun, stretch, do yoga, meditate, do what you love and create your dream. Wear rainbow pants, or you could learn to salsa dance. Fish are swimming, birds are flying, every day there's people dying. You can grieve or accept, clumsy or emotionally adept. Birds all sing a choral song, knowing that we all belong daily. They all celebrate. Earth's fantastic, also great. That's my little gratitude poem written 6 days ago, and one last one on the on the vein of the Chinese poets. It's the morning one. Pink mauve sky, sunrise, fades to blue, crisp as a summer apple, a crow, a cockatoo, emerald trees of greens, morning peace, means there's space for seasoning, the addition of spice, a touch, not too much, but enough, as crepuscular rays pierce silhouettes of trees, illuminating for our eyes to appreciate and our mind to make poetry. Alright, have you got anything you'd like to add? Anyone else? Anyone else? Doug?
Yes, I've got a
Ashley? Yes,
Just
a
a
thought.
Stay there. Stay there, James.
I've been thinking for 2 days, consistently this thought. The United States of America is very good in terms of the existential, but quite clearly lacking when it comes to the ontological.
I got a quick one.
Yes.
And
Well,
I'm getting up in front of that bloody microphone.
okay, yeah.
No, I don't. Thank you. Give me a second. I caught a second bite of the cherry. No, I just want to share, this might be a poem. And I'm motivated to write a poem. The word trauma's been mentioned tonight. Trauma is a highly important word to me. That's all I want to say. And I'll endeavour to write a poem about it. But this afternoon I was at Rockwell, out at Armidale, and a person on a place I was with, I can't call this bird a friend, because I don't know how to term a wild creature a friend. But there was a king parrot sitting on his veranda, on his back veranda. You know the king parrot, all of you?
Yeah.
Green and red. What I want to say in an observable manner is, to look at the bird sitting still, he knows this guy. no fear. The bird was sitting there as calm as. And when I looked at the green in that bird and the red in that bird, I don't know if I could even contemplate a green or a red. And it sat there not moving a hair, watching us. And yet it's a wild creature. So I just thought, just the colour of that bird, sitting so still, not frightened, just happy. But the colour, it overwhelmed me if I could. Thank you for this. I'm thinking.
Cheers. See you later, guys. Thanks very much for everything. Oh, have you finished? Oh, you haven't.
Oh, we're just about to wrap up. Yeah, thank you very much for everyone for coming tonight.
Don't forget to continue those people, they're interested.
Yeah, and if you're watching out there on YouTube or Facebook, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and a comment. And I'll leave you with one last thought. I'm not crawling anymore. I can run fast. I'm not crawling anymore. I've picked myself up and took a couple of teeter-tottering steps. I gained my balance and then I tumbled and fell over, and I'm not crawling anymore because I picked myself up and pulled myself up on the coffee table, and I stood there and I looked about and everyone was smiling because I was smiling. Yeah, and I turned around and I started to walk to them because I wanted to be with them because they looked so happy. Yeah, me standing there smiling, making them smile. I just wanted to make them smile more. So I took a few teeter-tottering steps and I fell over. And they all went, ah! But I didn't hurt myself. I just kind of rolled and laughed. And I picked myself up and they laughed and got up, and I was crawling, but I slowly again I picked myself up and I picked myself up and I picked myself up again, and I got up to my mum and dad, and I'm not crawling anymore. Nah, I can run now. Yeah, I'm not drowning anymore. I can swim like a fish. I was cold, I shivered, the wind blew, but I got in. And once I was in, it was so funny. I laughed and they laughed, and I got in and then used to the water, and I swim every day and practice a bit more, and I'm not crawling anymore, and I can walk, and I'm a good walker, and I can toddle now, and I can run, and I'm not drowning now. I can do dog paddle. Yeah, and I can keep my head above the water. And I'm not crawling anymore, I'm running, and I'm like swimming, and I can do freestyle proper overarms and breathe on the side. And I can breathe on both sides, and I got a certificate. It's just a piece of paper because it says I can swim 25 metres. But it doesn't mean anything. It's like, now I can do breaststroke and backstroke and butterfly, and I do backstroke really well. I'm not drowning anymore. I can dive in and swim far and fast, and I can win a race and put my head up and look around, and everyone is doing breaststroke and laughing because I was doing freestyle. Yeah. But I'm not drowning anymore. I'm not crawling anymore, and I can run fast, and I can run a long way, and it takes me 22 seconds to run 100 metres. It might not be that fast, but I can run up and down mountains, and I'm the king of the mountain. Slip, snap, fast, I'll finish this. I don't need training wheels anymore. Now I can run and swim and ride and surf and dive and swim for over an hour and hold my breath and swim 25 metres underwater. Wow. And I can dive under the waves and swim with the dolphins a long time and body surf in the tube, and I'm not crawling, and I'm laughing and they're laughing, and I just want to make them laugh more. I'm not crawling anymore, and I'm not walking anymore. I'm marching and running and walking and slugging and out. I'm going up one hill and down another, and around a bend and over another hill and over mountains, and there's trees everywhere, and I just keep on going. And I have a drink of water, and I'm not crawling anymore, I'm running. I can run far and fast for hours, and I can jump over things and crawl through mud tunnels filled with water and electric shocks. But I'm not crawling anymore. I can swing on ropes and monkey bars, climb trees, jump over fences, swim through ice water pools and electric shocks up to my waist in mud, jump off cliffs into the water, walk 100 kilometres in 24 hours and 15 minutes and hold my breath and swim 50 metres underwater. And I crawl through tunnels with mud, swim with dolphins and sharks, and I'm smiling, swimming and thriving. And I'm not crawling anymore, I'm not drowning anymore, and we are not crawling anymore. We are flying.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah, brothers and sisters! Hallelujah!
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. See you later. Lots of love, Steve.
No.
Very rousing.
Yes.
We should have a few hundred to chant and clap.
Because I joined the army. Ben, say yes.
That's one of my rare handwritten poems.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
I'm not crying anymore. That's tops.
Yeah, not
By the
crawling.
way, I think Point Lookout is 1,500. It's very high. I think it's just on 1,000.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Oh, that one. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and don't forget to subscribe.
Get a pretty high.
I'm going to get going.